Page 240, Father Issues. The next morning, Mamu invited Sohrab and his mom over for breakfast. Lala took the opportunity to educate Sohrab about Star Trek: The Next Generation, now that she was a self-proclaimed expert. While Lala distracted Sohrab, I poured a glass of water and took my medicine. I don't know why I didn't want him to see that. He had seen my foreskin, after all, and he knew all about my depression anyway, but I still hated that he was seeing me have to take pills. Somehow it felt more intimate than just being naked in front of each other. That's normal, right? Finish your breakfast, Lalajan, Mamu said. Let Sohrab eat. We have to go. We were going to see Dalatabad. Dalatabad is one of the most common place names in Iran. It's like Springfield back in the United States. There's one in every province. The one in Yazid was a garden, not a separate city, at least not as far as I could tell, and it was famous for its landscaping and its mansion and its giant badgir. The adults walked ahead, with Lala riding on Dad's shoulders, while Sohrab and I walked behind in companionable silence. That was one of the things I liked best about Sohrab. We didn't have to talk to enjoy each other's company. We just walked and enjoyed the Yazid morning. Sometimes we would catch each other's eye and smile or squint or even chuckle. The sun was shining, but the air was still shaking off the night's chill. I really should have worn a hoodie, but instead I had on a long-sleeved shirt with my Team Melli jersey over it. I really loved that jersey. I felt very Persian in it. Birds whistled above us. I sneezed. Afiyat Bashe, Sohrab said. Thanks, I sneezed again. Sorry, how far is it? Not far, closer than Masjid-e-Jameh. Okay. Darius, when are we going to play football again? I bit my lip and stared down at my Vans. They were getting dusty. I wasn't sure I could endure another episode of penile humiliation in the showers. But Sohrab said we don't have to play with Ali Reza and Hossein if you don't want to. We can go to a different field. That's another thing I liked about Sohrab. He knew what I was thinking without me having to say it aloud. And a third thing I liked about him, he gave me time to think things over. Penile humiliation notwithstanding, I actually did have fun playing soccer/non-American football with Sohrab, and we couldn't really play with only the two of us, not if we were going to be on the same team. I always wanted to be on the same team as Sohrab. I don't mind, I said at last. We can play with the others. You sure? I won't let them tease you again, I promise. I'm sure, I said. We can play whenever. Sohrab squinted at me. Let's go this afternoon when we get back, okay? Okay. You are so good at it, Darius. You should play for your school when you go home. I imagined running into a field in the Chapel Hill High School team kit. Go Chargers. Maybe I will. Fir and cypress trees lined the walkways of Dalatabad Garden. We walked in the dappled shade, enjoying the mist blown off the burbling fountains. The path was paved with broken stones on one side and gleaming white diamond-shaped tiles on the other. It was so peaceful. My dad loved to come here, Sohrab said. I liked that he felt safe talking about his dad to me. Do you get to visit him? Sohrab chewed his cheek and didn't answer. Sorry. No, don't be. It's okay, Darius. He sat on the edge of a fountain, and I sat beside him, bumping shoulders. I don't know why people say joined at the hip. Sohrab and I were joined at the shoulder. I let him take his time. We got to see him at first for the first few years, once a month. The fountain gurgled. The wind rustled the trees. Was it bad? Not too bad. He was here in Yazid. The prison was not good. But at least he was close. Sohrab's jaw twitched. I bumped his shoulder again, more to cheer him up than anything. But then he said, 4 years ago they transferred him. Oh, to Evin prison. You know Evin? I shook my head. It's very bad. It's in Tehran, and they put him... Sohrab stared up at the branches shading us. No one can see him, not even the other prisoners. Solitary confinement? Yes. Oh, I said. Sohrab sighed. I wanted to make it better, but I didn't know how. Sohrab had father issues. I suppose I had father issues too, though they paled in comparison. Maybe all Persian boys have father issues. Maybe that is what it means to be a Persian boy. I'm sorry, Sohrab. I rested my hand on his shoulder, and he let out a long, low breath. What if I never see him again? He whispered. I squeezed Sohrab's shoulder and then stretched my arm all the way across it, so I was kind of holding him. Sohrab bit his lip and blinked and squeezed out a few stress hormones of his own. Just a few. You will, I said. Sohrab wiped his face with the back of his hand. I felt so helpless. Sohrab was hurting, and there was nothing I could do, nothing except sit there and be his friend. But maybe that was enough, because Sohrab knew it was okay to cry in front of me. He knew I wouldn't tell him not to have feelings. He felt safe with me. Maybe that's the thing I liked about Sohrab best of all. After a minute, he cleared his throat, shook his head, and stood up. Come on, Darius, she said. There is more I want to see. I want you to see. Page 245. Make it so. Darius, look up. We're here. Wow. The roof of leaves ended abruptly. We stood at the end of a long fountain, and that fountain led to a huge 8-sided mansion, and out of that mansion rose a Badgir, a wind tower. It was a true tower, not like the Towers of Silence, which were more mounds than anything. The Badgir of Dalatabad Garden was even taller than the spindly met columns of Takhtu Jamshid. It soared 100 feet above us, smooth along its bottom half, slotted along the upper half to catch the wind, with little spade-shaped ornaments at the top. Spines dotted the surface of the spire. It reminded me of the Barad-dûr, although it lacked the flaming eye of Sauron atop it to complete the picture, and it was khaki-colored, not black. I sneezed. It's huge. Yes, huge. Sohrab squinted at my astonishment. Come on, it's better inside. We can go in? Of course. It was the most colorful place I had seen in Yazid, maybe the most colorful place in the entire world. One entire wall was taken up with a huge stained glass window. Intricately wrought flowers in every color cast dancing rainbows into the mansion. We were swimming in light. We were accelerating to warp speed. Wow, I breathed. It felt like the kind of place where you were supposed to whisper. You say that a lot. Sorry. Don't be. I like it. You don't have to have these things back home? Nothing like this, I said. I stared up at the ceiling, a gleaming white lines intersecting and weaving together into a 24-sided star, which cascaded outward into interlocking diamonds as they followed the curvature of the inner dome. I had stepped into a world of elven magic, into Rivendell or Lothlorien. The cool air from the Badgir above us ripped the hair on my arms. Nothing like this. This time when we went to play soccer/non-American football, I knew to pack a towel and more supportive underwear. I still didn't have cleats. Sohrab said I could borrow his again, but I had my Team Melli jersey to wear, which was even better. I still felt kind of sick when I thought about being naked again, but the worst had already happened, and I knew Sohrab would stick up for me if it came to it. When we got to the locker room, Sohrab tried to pass me his nicer cleats. You should wear these, I said. I can use the white ones. You take them. These are better. But I had been outmaneuvered once more. My tar-off skills were still very poor. I feel bad. You can't give me your nice cleats. Okay, Darius, thank you. Success. When I finished dressing, Sohrab looked me over and squinted. You look like a football star, Darius. My ears turned so red they matched the stripe across my chest. Thanks. Ready? Ready. Ali Reza and Hossein were out on the field again, engaged in a 2-on-1 game against a group of clearly outmatched younger kids. Sohrab and I watched for a minute as Ali Reza bowled over one of his opponents and scored a goal. I shook my head. It was the sort of overly aggressive maneuver only a soulless minion of orthodoxy would engage in. Sohrab grabbed my shoulder. Come on. He ran into the pack and insinuated himself onto the younger team. In a flash, he hooked the ball from Ali Reza and tore up the field toward the goal. It was completely undefended. The kids whooped and laughed as Sohrab scored. They didn't mind at all that we had infiltrated their team. I hung back to defend our goal with a boy in overlarge cleats. He must have had hobbit feet like me and Persian hair even longer and curlier than mine. Salam, he said. He had a thick accent, but it was cool. I liked the way he formed his vowels. Salam. He pointed at my Team Melli jersey. Nice, he said in English. I could tell I guess he could tell I didn't speak much Farsi. Thanks. The young Iranian hobbit, I decided to call him Frodo, ran up toward midfield. Now that Sohrab was playing, Ali Reza and Hossein had lost their tactical advantage, and our team kept pressing forward. Sohrab scored 3 more times with assists from some of our new teammates before Hossein held onto the ball and waved us all out to huddle midfield. Frodo and I jogged out to join the circle. Everyone was talking in Farsi, arguing back and forth too fast for me to make anything out. Like Frodo, when he wore the One Ring, I had slipped back into the Twilight world, hidden from the Iranians around me by my inability to speak Farsi. Since I was Frodo, I decided that made the hobbit next to me Samwise. But then Sohrab said, English, Darius can't understand. And Hossein said, okay, Sohrab and Ayatollah pick first. Samwise looked at me. Ayatollah? My ears burned hotter than Mount Doom. Sohrab saved me again. We're changing teams, he explained. 6 and 6. You're with me, Darius. Captains. Me, Darius Kellner, a captain. Just like the Picard. Asghar, Sohrab said to Samwise, you are with us. Sohrab and Ali Reza took turns picking the other boys. We got Mehraban, a non-Reza Ali, and Behruz, who was the shortest kid there but had the darkest mustache. It was deeply impressive. Okay, Sohrab said. He nodded at me. I cleared my throat. Make it so. Playing soccer/non-American football with Sohrab, Asghar, Samwise, Frodo, and the rest of the team was genuinely fun, even if Asghar and the other guys had all decided to call me Ayatollah. I hated it at first, but as far as I could tell, none of them knew the real reason. It's because you are in charge, Sohrab said. That's what I told them. Our team cheered my new nickname whenever I nailed a tricky pass or managed a good save. I almost started to like it. Almost. But no matter what, Sohrab always called me Darius. We played until my calves burned and my lungs were in danger of experiencing a non-passive failure. We played until Asghar had to hunch on the side of the field, hands on his knees, and fight the urge to vomit. We played until Hossein and Ali Reza got tired of us scoring goals on them, and we scored a lot of goals. Asghar and the other guys made us promise to play again the next day. Sohrab said yes right away. Apparently he was something of a fixture on the field, though he had missed several games since he started hanging out with me. He had given that up for me. He didn't have to do that. Ali Reza pretended like he might not return. He had suffered a crushing defeat after all, but I knew he'd be back. When Hossein said, different teams next time, Sohrab hung back, kicking the ball around with me while the others cooled off and headed for the locker room. I knew why he was doing it, but he didn't say anything or make a big deal out of it. That's the kind of friend he was. But that didn't make things any less awkward when it was just him and me in the locker room. In fact, it might have been more awkward. Once again, Sohrab stripped himself completely, like it was totally normal for guys to be naked around each other. His skin was a volcano with sweat running down every valley. My face was experiencing some extreme thermal flux of its own. Thanks for letting me borrow these, I said, as I tucked the laces back inside my borrowed cleats. You are welcome. Sohrab slung his towel over his shoulder. It's nice to share with you, Darius. I peeled off the sweaty Team Melody jersey, acutely aware that all my soccer/non-American football stuff had come from Sohrab, whether bought or borrowed. I felt very inadequate as a friend. But then it came to me, the way to make it up to him. Sohrab desperately needed a new pair of cleats, and I was an Iranian millionaire. Come on, the water should be warm again. Sohrab faced me and talked while we showered, which was weird, but at least there was a spray going and soap partially covering me. I didn't feel quite so exposed, especially when I could turn away to rinse off and listen to him. Sohrab told me all about the guys we had played with, how the games had started out with just Sohrab and Ali Reza, and then Ali Reza invited Hossein, and Sohrab invited Asghar, and one by one the group had coalesced, like a solar system forming around a brand new star. I was amazed Sohrab could carry on a casual conversation about the dynamics of Yazid, soccer/non-American football playing youth, while soaping up his penis. I was even more amazed I managed to talk back to him while I scrubbed my belly button and my stomach jiggled like some sort of gelatinous non-humanoid life form. Maybe I was learning to have less walls inside me too. Maybe I was. On the way home, Sohrab said, "Thank you for playing, Darius. Thank you for asking me." Sohrab squinted at me. I told you, remember? Your place was empty. I smiled back at him. Yeah, but not anymore. Not anymore. Mamu, I said, I want to get Sohrab some nice soccer cleats. Football cleats. Okay, Maman. Do you know what size? 44. Okay, I'll have Dai Sohail bring them next time he comes. They have better shopping in Shiraz. I'll grab my money. It's okay, Darius John, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He's my friend. I want to do something nice for him. You are so sweet. I was amazed I didn't have to tar off about it. Can I help? Mamu was up to her elbows in suds. It's okay, Darius John. I can rinse for you. If you want, thanks. I was amazed I didn't have to tarif about that either. I stood next to Mamu and rinsed the dishes for her as she hummed along to the radio. I was so used to unrecognizable Persian beats, at first I didn't recognize what Mamu was humming, what the radio was playing. It wasn't Farsi, it wasn't Persian music at all. It was Dancing Queen. Mamu? Yes, are we listening to ABBA? Yes, they are my favorite. I thought about that, how Fariba Barami, who had lived in Iran her entire life, was in love with a band from Sweden. I wanted to know where she heard them for the first time. I wanted to know what other music she liked, and movies and books. I wanted to know everything she loved. Darius, yeah? I'm almost done. Can you make me some of your special tea? Sure. I dried my hands and started the water. Mamu finished the last few dishes and then pulled half a watermelon out of the fridge. She carved it into cubes while I dammed the FTG FOP1 first flush Darjeeling and poured us each a cup. You don't leave the leaves in? Mamu asked. It gets bitter if you let it steep too long. Oh, thank you, Maman. I love this tea. I loved my grandmother. Before, she had been photons on a computer screen. Now she was real and full of the most amazing contradictions. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know everything about her. It was like the well inside me had finally cracked open, and I finally had my chance. When did you start listening to ABBA? Page 255, Chelo Kebab. Sohrab and I played soccer/non-American football every day after that, except for Friday. On Friday, Mamu was making chelo kebab. That morning, I found her elbow deep in an enormous glass bowl of ground beef, burnished a bright gold from all the turmeric she had added. Sob bakir, Maman, she said. Sob bakir. There's tea in the kettle. It's in the living room. That was the safest place for it. Fariba Barami was making chelo kebab, which meant the kitchen was about to become a battlefield like Helm's Deep. Thanks. Is there anything I can help with? I will let you know. Thank you. Okay. Even fractional Persians like me and Lala dream sweet, exquisite dreams of chelo kebab. Back home, we only had it on special occasions, birthdays and holidays and report card days, so long as I made a B average. Stephen Kellner was surprisingly cool about that. He said he wanted me to try my hardest. He didn't want me to be afraid of getting a bad grade as long as I was learning. And that was good because I pretty much always got a C in math, but I got A's in history and English, so that kept my GPA in good enough shape to maintain a regular supply of chelo kebab. When we made chelo kebab at home, Mom was in charge of the chelo. She knows the secret to perfect tahdig, and Dad was in charge of the kebab. Mastery of grilled meats is an essential component in the makeup of a Teutonic Übermensch. Mom must have mentioned Dad's preternatural kebab skills because Mamu put him to work packing the ground beef for kebab, kubadeh, into skewers. Dad patted the meat around the wide metal skewers, pinching them between his index and middle fingers up and down the length of the blade to seal them on, while Mom helped Mamu cut chicken breasts into cubes using a cartoonishly oversized cleaver. I was certain the event would end in bloodshed, in bodies piled sky high like the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. I washed the dishes when they let me, enjoying the smells of kebab in the making, and waited for the horns to sound. Darius, come help me, please. Babu summoned me to the garden. We need to put the tables up. I half expected Babu to wheel a ping-pong table out like the Rizais had in their yard, but instead he had me drag 3 fabric-topped card tables out from the shed in the corner. I unfolded the legs and helped him line them up beneath the canopy of fig leaves. Babu grunted and nodded at me, but didn't really speak. His shoulders were hunched, and as I followed him to the shed to collect some dark wooden folding chairs, I noticed how slowly he shuffled his feet. I remembered what Mom said about how strong Babu was that day he carried her home from the park. I wondered if it was the same park where Sohrab and I sat on a rooftop and watched the sun set over our khaki kingdom. I wondered if Babu had ever carried any of my cousins piggyback. I wondered what else I had missed out on, what else I was going to miss. I didn't understand Babu. I wasn't even sure if I liked him, to be honest, but I did not want him to die. Soon there would be one less Barami. Darius Jan, go ask Khanum Rezai to bring more sabzi when she and Sohrab come. Okay. Mrs. Rezai opened the door before I even knocked. She had her hair pulled back and arranged in huge curlers. With her forehead exposed and her eyebrows stretched upward by the strength of her hair, she reminded me even more of a Klingon warrior preparing for battle. Allah Uaba, Dariushjan, she said, and pulled me in. Come in, Sohrab is in the back. Allah Uaba? Mrs. Rezai's smile widened, and I was glad I had decided it was okay to use the greeting with her, even though I wasn't Baha'i. Babu asked me to ask you to bring more sabzi for tonight, if you can. Sure, your grandma makes the best chelo kebab. I hoped she would not be offended that Stephen Kellner had a hand in making the chelo kebab this time. Klingons could be notoriously contentious when it came to their food. While Mrs. Rezai sorted out which sabzi to take, I found Sorab in the backyard. He was kicking his soccer ball / non-American football around, barefoot and shirtless. Sweat plastered his short hair to his temples and the nape of his neck. He waved when I came out and put his hands behind his head in surrender cobra. His flat chest rose and fell, and his stomach muscles rolled with each breath. I knew if I got close enough to him, the intense thermal radiation he was emitting would scorch me. Hi, Darius, she said. He squinted at me, but he could barely breathe. Hey, what were you doing? Push-ups, sit-ups, wind sprints, drills. Wow. I had underestimated Sorab's dedication to soccer / non-American football. Maybe I should have been practicing too. Sorab squeezed and squinted and breathed and squinted. I sneezed. Babu wanted me to ask your mom to bring some sabzi tonight for chelo kebab. Mamu makes the best chelo kebab. I eat way too much every time. Me too, I said. I mean, when my mom and dad make it. Sorab pressed his right foot into his left, scratching at the top of it with his big toenail. The silence between us hung heavy and close. My ears warmed their way toward a red alert. Sorab swallowed. The little hollow in his collarbone stood out against his glowing skin. You want to play a while? He knew the perfect way to puncture the silence. Yeah. It was true what everyone said. Fariba Barami did make the best chelo kebab in the world. Maybe in the entire Alpha Quadrant. We ate in the shade of Babu's fig trees crowded around the card tables or sitting on the ledges of Babu's herb planters. Unlike the Rezai's garden, Babu's hadn't been assimilated by fresh mint. But it was only a matter of time. Resistance is futile. Baskets of sabzi, parsley and watercress and tarragon and basil and mint, stalks of green onion, fresh radishes carved into flowers, sat on each table. There were lemon wedges to squeeze onto our meat and tiny glass dishes of overflowing with bright red sumac, ruby sumac, which was for sprinkling over everything. It's supposed to help with digestion, which is good because I do not know a single Persian, fractional or otherwise, who doesn't overeat when chelo kebab is on the menu. I told you, Sorab bumped my shoulder, your grandma makes the best. Yeah, I used the point of my spoon to break off a segment of kebab kubide. Of all Persian foods, kebab kubide is probably the most suspicious looking, even more than fesanjun. Each kebab looked like a soft brown log, shiny with oil and fat, dimpled where Dad had pinched it to seal it onto the skewer. It was deeply suggestive. My cousin Nazgul, who may have actually been a ringwraith, sat on my other side watching Lala cut her kebab and mix grilled tomato into her rice. Nazgul turned to me and popped the petals of a radish flower into her mouth. You want some? No thanks. It's good for you. Here. She tried to press a piece of radish to my lips as I laughed and turned away. Nakon Nazgul Kanum, Sorab said. Leave him alone. Nazgul shrugged and turned to offer the radish to Lala, who popped it into her mouth and then scrunched her face up. Sorab watched Lala gag. He caught my eye and chuckled. Thanks, I said. I'm going to grab some more. You want any? Nah, merci, Darius. He squinted at me and then he said, maybe a little. Okay. I took both our plates into the kitchen where the platters of kebab and rice took up every square inch of available counter space. When dinner was through, the dishes would pile even higher than the mountain Mom and I had washed after Nowruz. Chelo kebab was a serious endeavor. Dad was refilling his plate with grilled vegetables as I scooped more saffron rice onto my own. For once, he didn't comment on my food choices, even though a second helping of rice was a classic dietary indiscretion. He was too busy fielding advice and criticism about kebab preparation from all the Barami men. You have to use enough salt. This is very important, Dai Jamshid said. You have to pinch it better, or it falls off the skewer, Dai Sohail said. You have to make sure the grill is very hot, Babu said, but not too hot. I almost felt sorry for Dad. Almost. But I met his eyes to see if he needed to be rescued, and he grinned at me and turned back to Babu. What I like to do is use oil on my fingers instead of water, Dad said. That way they don't stick as much. It's messy, though. The Barami men nodded in approval. I wasn't jealous of him. Not really. But maybe Dad's place had been empty, too. Maybe he had figured out how to fill it. Maybe he had. Page 262. The Virgo Supercluster. With so many Persians gathered in such close proximity, it was inevitable they would reach critical mass and ignite a game of rook. This time, Babu played with Dai Sohail against Dad and Dai Jamshid. I did not understand how anyone could play rook as much as Ardashir Barami. Sometimes I found him in bed, playing alone, the cards spread across a blanket on his lap as he formulated moves and counter-moves with imaginary opponents and an imaginary teammate. I found a seat in the corner and watched the Barami men and Stephen Kellner start bidding. How did he do it? How could he just join in like that? Darius, Sorab said, are you stuck? Huh? You said sometimes you get stuck, thinking something sad? Oh, I swallowed and pulled at the tassels of my hoodie. It's nothing. Come on, Sorab pulled me up to my feet. I won't let you be stuck anymore. He dragged me to the table where Parviz and Navid, Dai Sohail's sons, sat. Parviz was 23 and Navid was 21, which made them closer to me in age than anyone except Nazgul, the 19-year-old Nazgul. Darius, Parviz said. His voice was rich and creamy like smooth peanut butter. He barely had an accent. It only came through in the sharpness of his vowels and the lilt in his sentences, as if there was the shade of a question in everything he said. How come you never told us you play football? Oh, Sorab said you are very good at it. I tried really hard not to smile. He is, you should see him. I'm not that good. Yes, you are. You should have heard Ali Reza. He was so mad. He said, it's not fair. I'm never playing with you two again. Parviz snorted. You still play with him? I thought he moved, Navid said. Navid's voice was deep, like his mother's. He had inherited her elegant arched lips and Mamu's long, dark eyelashes. I, too, had inherited Mamu's eyelashes, which sometimes got me teased at school. To be honest, though, I liked them. I really did. He was going to move to Kerman, Sorab said, but his father lost his job and they had to stay here. Ali Reza had been a complete jerk to me, the epitome of a soulless minion of orthodoxy, but I still felt bad for him. It turned out Ali Reza had father issues too. Sorab gave Parviz and Navid a complete play-by-play of our latest game. He made me sound way better than I really was, glossing over the passes I missed and exaggerating all the saves I pulled off. It became a lot harder not to smile. I felt like I was 10 feet tall. After the game, Ali Reza wouldn't stop complaining, Askar told me. Ali Reza said, they don't even play football in America. Sorab threw his arm over my shoulder. He had showered before coming over and still smelled soapy and fresh like rosemary. My back warmed where his arm rested. But it doesn't matter. Darius is Persian too. I was a warp core on full power. I was glowing with pride. Navid and Parviz decided that since I was so Persian, it was time for me to learn how to play rook. Navid produced a pack of cards from his shirt pocket, the way a smoker would produce a pack of cigarettes, and began dealing. Sorab sat across from me and helped my cousins explain the game. I already knew the basics, but I had never actually tried to play before. It's okay, Sorab said. Just have fun. I glanced over at Dad's table. He caught my eye and smiled like he actually approved of what I was doing. I worried I would have to play rook with him when we got home. I did not think I could stomach it. Sorab started out our bidding. The inherent telepathy that made us such a good team at soccer/non-American football helped us with rook, too. That was good because I was pretty much terrible at the game. Sorab never got mad or impatient, though, and even Navid and Parviz were nice about it. After each round, they gave me advice on what I could have done better. It was probably the slowest game of rook they had ever played. It didn't matter, though. We had fun. When the night wound down, I escorted Sorab and his mom out and said goodnight to the living room, where all the ladies sat sipping tea and talking over each other in Farsi. Mamu pushed herself off the couch to give me a good-night hug. If Mamu made the best chelo kebab on the Alpha Quadrant, it was nothing compared to her hugs, which were easily the best in the Virgo supercluster, of which our Milky Way galaxy was only a small part. When Mamu wrapped her arms around me, a whole new dimension of light and warmth opened up between them. I sighed and hugged Mamu back. I wished there was a way I could bundle her hugs up and take them back to Portland with me. Good night, Maman. Good night, Mamu. I love you. I love you, Darius-Jan. She held my face. Sleep well. Lala's door was cracked open as I passed by. She was curled up on her bed, completely incapacitated by the amount of chelo kebab she had eaten. I kind of wished Dad wasn't playing rook. Maybe I could have convinced him to watch an episode of Star Trek, just the two of us. But Dad had found his place, and I had found mine, even if they were farther apart. Like I said, our intermix ratio had to be carefully calibrated. I went to my room and started up the dancing fan. Dai Sohail had brought Sorab's new cleats for me, concealed in a grocery bag, and Mamu had left the box on my bed. I opened it up, bright green Adidas, with the 3 gleaming white stripes on each shoe so crisp and new they would blind Ali Reza and Hossein next time Sohrab played against them. They were perfect. I wanted to run after Sohrab and give them to him right away. I wanted to go to the field and play a game, but then I thought about what he had said, that it was nice to share with me. And I thought maybe I should wait and give them to him later, like a going-away gift or something. "What's that?" Mom asked from the door. "Dai Sohail picked up some cleats for me to give Sohrab as a gift. He needs new ones. They're perfect." "Yeah." Mom sat down next to me and ran her fingers through my hair. "You were a good friend. You know that? Thanks. I love seeing you two together, just like me and Mavash when we were younger. Yeah, I loved being Sohrab's friend. I loved who being Sohrab's friend made me. You're gonna miss it here, aren't you?" "Yeah," I played with my tassel. "I think I am." Mom wrapped her arm around me and pulled my head down to kiss me on the temple. "Did you have a good time tonight?" "It was perfect," I said. And it was perfect. It was bittersweet too because I was running out of time. I wished I could stay in Iran. I wished I could go to school with Sohrab and play soccer/non-American football every day, though I supposed I would have to start calling it regular football. I wished I could have been born in Yazid, that I could have grown up with Sohrab and Asghar and even Ali Reza and Hossein. The thing is, I never had a friend like Sohrab before, one who understood me without even trying, who knew what it was like to be stuck on the outside because of one little thing that set you apart. Maybe Sohrab's place was empty before too. Maybe it was. I didn't want to go home. I didn't know what I was going to do when I had to say goodbye.